Much, and I am going to go through the ABC 1, 2, 3, and actually, and now just to give you a little heads up, guys, it's now we've shifted a little bit. It's going to be ABC 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 3. ABC 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 3. But before I even get into that, you know what? I really feel compelled this evening or this morning to just really help you understand the value of gold in a brand new way. And I'm going to show you some things. And I think, you will have seen some of this before, but I want to give it to you. Hey, where'd my, can you guys, can somebody just, can you still see my camera? Hold on. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now, here we are. Okay, perfect. So we're going to cut this, cut that. All right, I'm going to stick this up here. I just really feel compelled to help you understand the value of gold, and I'm going to do a quick little replay for you and show you some stuff that you've already seen, okay? So we've all seen this slide before, right? And what we say is that, people think inflation is an increase in the price of goods, and what we try to get across using this simple little slide here, and hang on, how do I, hang on, I'm playing with my own camera because we're recording it. There we go. Got it. Okay. So we talk about, and I know that we've all seen this. The price of a suit was an ounce of gold 2,000 years ago. It was an ounce of gold 60 years ago. It was an ounce of gold today. I want to take this whole concept and I want to shift it. I want to flip it a little bit. Okay. What we're really saying here is that the price hasn't changed when we measure it in gold, which is a true store of value. So what we're really saying is that the value of gold does not change. It's the currencies which are constantly fluctuating. The reason why, it took $35 to buy a suit in 1960, but it takes $1,200 to get a suit today, is because they keep printing this fiat currency, which is unbacked, and the more they print, the less it's worth. But the purchasing power, the value of the gold itself, its store of value has remained constant over time. And so I want to show this to you now. Take a look at this slide. I've never, this is a brand new one. I've been playing with it. I pulled some of this information from King World News. I want you to just take a look at it. And what we're doing here is I want to show you the destruction of the fiat currencies when we don't measure currency against each other, but when we measure the currency against the gold. You see, most people think, the price of gold went up. No, the price of gold went down. Actually, the price of gold really doesn't change. It changes when we measure gold in dollars. But what I want to do tonight is I want to measure dollars in gold. We're going to flip this thing on its head. So let me give you, before I'm just going to blank the screen here for a second, and I'll just leave it up. So, I want to go back. I'm going to take you back a couple years ago, and some of you will have heard me say this before. All right, I go back to like this is 2017, so I go back to 2014, 2015, and today at the closing price of gold today in U.S. dollars, okay, in U.S. dollars, the closing price of gold today was about 1208, 1210. Do you know that in 2014, 15, the price of gold was about $1,210, pretty much the same as it was today. So, if you look at it in US dollars, the price of gold didn't change at all. But I don't live in the United States. I live in Canada. And in 2014-15, the Canadian dollar and the US dollar traded on par with each other. That meant that one Canadian dollar was equal to one US dollar. And so I could buy an ounce of gold for $12.10 American, or I could buy it for $12.10 Canadian. It was the same. It was irrelevant. Well, here we are today on January 24th of 2017. The Canadian dollar has dropped 35% against the US dollar. And now all of a sudden today, gold in US dollars is $12.10. But if I have to buy them in Canadian dollars, it now costs me $1,600 an ounce. Now, I want you to think about this, and I want you to think about this from the perspective of saving gold over long periods of time. Now, I bought gold back in 2014, back in 2015, where I paid $1,200 for it. And you know what? I didn't have to do anything. I just sat on it. I just let it sit in a corner, accumulate no interest, and the value of the gold that I bought in 2014, even though the price When you look on the internet, hasn't changed. The value of my dollar has dropped 35%, and now all of a sudden, my gold is worth $1,600. I got a 35% lift on the value of that gold just by sitting on it. And the same thing is going to happen to each and every one of you, no matter what country or what currency you're dealing with. Now, I want to focus you back to this chart on the screen, and I want you to, we know that the United States went off the gold standard in 1971, and because of Bretton Woods, everybody was pegged to the US dollar, which basically meant that the entire world was on a gold standard pegged through the US dollar. The US dollar was what we call a proxy, okay? And the only reason nations of the world agreed to allowing the US dollar to become the world's reserve currency was, one, up until about that time, they had a strong economy, and because the dollar was backed by gold, and you could officially convert your currency for gold, it was said that the dollar was as good as gold. Well, that was a promise. 1971, August 15th of 1971, Richard Nixon broke that promise, and all of a sudden, the dollar was no longer as good as gold. The dollar was just a useless piece of paper that people accepted because they were floating around in circulation. There was a promise that would be paid against. So now I want to go look at this chart, okay? And I'm going to look at 5 major currencies. Do you know that in 1971, you could buy an ounce of gold for 12,500 yen? So in Japanese yen, an ounce of gold was 12,500. You see, you have to price gold in the currency that you use in the nation you live in. It's wrong to always price gold in US dollars because not everybody has them. So the Japanese yen in 1971, an ounce of gold was $12,500. Today, as of yesterday, an ounce of gold in Japanese yen is 139,000 yen. In other words, the price of gold in yen increased 11 times. But if you take, now we understand that the gold holds its value. So the gold bought a suit 2,000 years ago, the gold bought the same suit 60 years ago, the gold buys the same suit today. So the purchasing power has remained the same. So if we then take the value of the currency, what's the decline of currency relative to gold? The currency has decreased. The Japanese yen has decreased 91% since 1971. Now we go to the euro. Okay, in 1971, there was no euro. It was a Deutschmark. So this is a Deutschmark euro comparison. 1971, ounce of gold, 65 euros. Today, it's 1,129 euros. The price of gold in euros has gone up 17 times. The currency has decreased 94% when measured in gold. US dollars, 1971, the peg was, an ounce of gold is $35, $35 an ounce. Today, it's $12.10. As of today, the value of gold has gone up 35 times. The currency has decreased 97%. Now, we make a statement in our webinars, you know, that the purchasing power of the dollar has lost 98 to 99% of its value. And here we're saying 97. It's still a true statement that we make, because we make that statement from the inception of the Federal Reserve, which was in 1913. So from 1913 to today, the dollar's lost about 99% of its purchasing power. But from 71 to today, it's lost 97% of it. Okay, totally makes sense, because under Bretton Woods, the currency was backed by gold and gold was on a direct peg. So we didn't have any inflation. We didn't have a whole lot of currency destruction. After 71, boom, as they started printing this money, the value began to decrease. Now here, look at Canadian dollars. I gave you an example a few moments ago. In 1971, the Canadian dollar was actually worth more than the US dollar. So you could buy an ounce of gold for $34, not 35, 34. But what happened in the meantime? The Canadian dollar is tanked. Today, an ounce of gold in Canadian dollars is 1,618. 48% increase. 98% reduction of our currency. And if we go to pound sterling, which is, it's been decimated the most. So if you were to calculate these numbers, it's not 98%, it's about 98.7%. So it's almost 99%. You could buy an ounce of gold for 15 pounds. Today it's 978 pounds, a 65% increase or a 99% reduction of that currency. Basically what's going on, because they're printing all this currency, the fiat money system is absolutely being destroyed. But the purchasing power of the gold remains constant. And what I love about what we're doing here at Karatbars, listen, just forget about the price of gold. Did it go up? Did it go down? Forget about it. Now listen, when it goes down, that is just a huge buying opportunity. But this opportunity to be able to purchase gold, whether you're buying it by the gram through Karatbars, but when we look at the ounce price at 12.10, this is a gift from God, and this gift, this window of opportunity will be closing. We will not have it forever, and we are getting remarkably close to a point in time when physical accessibility to gold will get tighter and tighter. Now, Harold Seitz, our dear CEO, in his infinite wisdom, tells us that he has stockpiled enough of this that we can melt down these kilo-sized bars to continue producing these grams and cash gold units. But you know, the COMEX and the LBMA and all the rest of these institutions, they are getting increasingly tight on supply because the price has been manipulated in what's called the paper market or the synthetic market. There's a very big difference between the paper market and the physical market, which is what we deal in. When you have a Karatbar in your hand, when you have cash gold in your hand, you have real gold bullion, which will hold its value forever. And you'll want to get as much as you can, as often as you can, because this is the only way to protect yourself from the destruction of our currencies, which are basically debasing by the minute. You know, so here's a beautiful little example. So in Canadian dollars, you know, in US dollars, let's say this is a piece of cash gold. It's 1/10 of a gram. It's not a full gram. So the way I look at this, I want to help you with something here. When I look at cash gold, and when I look at Karatbars, I look at this as being spendable currency. So let's just use US numbers now, okay? I'm going to call this piece of cash gold, let's call this 1 gram, a 1/10 of a gram. This to me is like my $5 bill. 2/10 of a gram, it's like my $10 bill. 4/10 of a gram, it's like my 40. 6/10 of a gram, call it, you know, just for simple reference, it's the 50. A gram of gold, a full gram, you know, that's kind of like my 70 to 100. And so when you have cash gold and you have Karatbars gold in your hand, you have got a complete complement of spendable gold in small transactable units. You don't want these ounces. Now, I know many of you have heard me say this in the webinars and my videos and whatnot, but I really want you to get your head wrapped around this because it's going to lead me to the next place. It's going to lead us to the next thing I want to talk about. Does this make sense to you here? Right? You really want to get your hands on as much physical gold as you can. And the beautiful thing that Karatbars has done has made it so simple to begin acquiring it in small increments without having to go broke or destroy your cash flow every time you want to get your hands on some of it, because you can get it in small units. That brings us to the beautiful, beautiful gold savings system, or what we call 113. 113. This is a beautiful, powerful, but utterly simplistic savings mechanism that will literally enable you to save money, accumulate real and genuine wealth, and protect and preserve your purchasing power. Because, you know, the way I look at it is every time I take a $10 bill from my wallet and acquire a piece of cash gold, I'm basically I'm washing my fiat money. I'm giving it back to the central bank, and I'm acquiring a piece of cash gold in my hand. And the minute I do that, inflation is dead in its tracks. As long as I'm holding on to $10 bills, $5 bills, $20 bills, inflation is eating it every second I hang on to it. The minute I convert it into gold, I stop inflation dead in its tracks. And you do the same thing. Now, the beautiful thing about this system is, listen, if all you ever did was open a free gold savings account and begin to acquire gold by the gram, you have already done more than 99% of people on this planet. We've used this statistic before. 1% of the world's population holds physical gold. Actually, the latest number from the World Gold Council, I spent a good part of this week at the Vancouver Investment and Resource Conference, so it's primarily focused on precious metals. The statement that they're making now is that actually statistically, it's 0.5% of the world's population sit on physical gold. So if all you ever did was acquire gold into that gold savings account and stop inflation, you have done more than 99.5% of the people on this planet. And that's a beautiful thing. And this is why we do this, because we understand the power of getting ourselves